Welcome to the Mantiques Network, first episode of Storytellers. We've got three interesting cats here today that are going to give us some of their history on being in this cool business of collecting collectibles and curating history for us. And so to my right, to the far right, is Tony Colombini. He is the co-owner of the Blacktop Depot in Orange. If you haven't been there, it's a phenomenal antique shop. You must go. He also produces a very cool magazine called the Blacktop View. As a producer, we'll go through that in a little bit. And before that, Tony was the art director at Classic Industries and marketing director at Edge Speed Shop. So he has been in this business as long as he knows. Next to him is his partner, Chris Unger, who is also the co-owner of the Blacktop Depot. And he's also the owner of Car Crazy Auction House and Restoration Shop, also in Orange. To my far left here is my buddy and my friend from a long time, Mark Riddle, who's the director of creative services at 10, which is the Enthusiast Network, which is the parent company for publications such as Hot Rod Magazine, Carcraft, Motor Trend, and they got the hit YouTube channel called Roadkill. If you haven't seen Roadkill, they got about 1 million people following them right now, and they're doing extremely well. Gentlemen, what I thought I would do is break the ice a little bit, ask some very simple, basic questions to get the guests here to know us a little bit better and kind of ease into the conversation. Tony, how about you? First car, first album, first concert.
My first car, it wasn't all that great. It had cinder blocks as the lowering kit for my 70 Bug, but it was my 67 Galaxy convertible that was my favorite. And it was a 390 in it, real nice. Until, let's see, I was 22. I just don't drink and drive, that's all I gotta say. I centered a pole with it and lost that car, but you know. And then my first album,
that was your first restoration project?
Yeah, that one was the cinder blocks. You see where I go from there. The first album was, well, I can remember my first 45 was American Pie. Because I thought that was kind of interesting. You had to flip it over to hear the rest of the song. Yeah, so that was that. And then the first concert was Van Halen. Because I couldn't go to a concert till I was 18. So that was a good one, yeah.
All right, Chris.
Well, it would have been about 1966, and my very first car I worked all summer for, it was a 1927 Model T, and I dug a footing for a fence around a 1-acre piece of property that summer. It was $375, and I'll tell you a story which is interesting. My dad was an old, poor farm boy from Ohio. Old cars meant poverty to him. He couldn't stand it. He wanted me to Steve Garvey was the greatest first baseman ever. I don't know what you're doing looking in the want ads. What are you thinking? What are you doing here? And so he didn't like old cars. But I went down to pick up, I had my last $50 payment that I'd worked for, and I went to, the guy's name was Phil Waters, knocked on the door, said, Phil, I'm done with the thing, I'm going to take the Model T. Phil goes, I talked to my wife, and we like that old car, and we're just going to go ahead and pay you. Right, so I looked at the guy and I felt the blood just drain right out of my face. Turned around right on the thing, didn't say a word to him, walked down the street to my house and walked in, and my dad goes, what's the matter? No, he wouldn't defend me for an old car for nothing. He didn't like old cars, he didn't want me messing with them. And I said, goddamn Phil is not going to give me that Model T after I worked for it. He's an old Navy chief, retired Navy chief. He goes,
your father?
Yeah, he goes, God, let's go. And he goes down there and pounds on the door. Phil answers the door and he takes out $50. He goes, give this goddamn kid his car. And it was the highlight of my antique cars with my dad because he hated them. I get teary-eyed thinking about it because it was a
stepping up, sure.
A great thing.
Yeah.
And don't you still have that car?
No. Well, no, I don't. No, I got pictures of it.
Oh. Interesting. Mark, your turn. What were you doing before the whole alliance thing? I mean, before the whole publishing business?
Well, not much, because one of my first jobs out of college was Alliance Entertainment.
Okay.
So I was putting out a music industry magazine called Amped for 18 years with Alliance Entertainment. And then I got a call from the East Coast, which was a subsidiary of the same company I worked for, and they're like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, it's my job, But they had no idea what I did. And I basically ran an in-house advertising agency for Alliance Entertainment. And once they figured that out, they're like, well, we want you to come reproduce that in California.
So Tony, how do you fall in this business?
Well, I've always been into old cars and all that, and I had a little marketing studio and design studio, taught graphic design for a while, and it was, I guess we're going to tie all of us together because Freiberger did the article on you, right? Or on the Silver Dollar?
We're going to get tied together?
I think so.
Oh, I can't wait to
So,
hear how
I
this
just
ties
left Eggy.
together.
I just left Eggy Machine Shop as their marketing director, and I was looking through Hot Rod Deluxe, and I see this article on the Silver Dollar, Mike Bamber's Silver Dollar, and I'm like, wow, that's a nice car, but I like the background. There's all these old signs and stuff, and I'm looking. Oh, that was shot in orange. Chris Unger, what? So I just drove down there, knocked on the door, and met Chris, and I was like, what was that, 6 years ago or so?
Oh, how cool is that? That's how you
And
met.
That's how we met.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Chris, tell us about Car Crazy and how you started that and why. And
My forte, I guess, has been digging out just real super rare cars.
Barn
I mean,
finds.
I've found cars that were buried and forgotten and rumored to have existed. And
give us
You're a legend.
give us an example of your favorite, most interesting barn
For
find.
my very favorite car, I was 36 years old. My mom calls me up and she goes, there's a guy down here in Encinitas who's got a Packard for sale. I get there and the guy goes, well, we got to dig the car out. You know, it was my dad's car. He'd bought it in 1948. And so he cleaned the crabgrass away from the thing and grit the doors open, and here's this Packard Roadster. It's a 32 Packard Roadster, and I look at it, and right in the center of the cowl, right, I'm looking at the back of the car, is a post sticking up, and I said, this didn't happen to have a V windshield, did it? And he goes, yeah, it did. He goes, the rest of the windshield's laying around here. My dad took it apart, but the center wasn't. This was one of 3 custom Dietrich V windshield cars. They
Is it
built
wrong
them.
if I say I hate you?
Yeah, no, you can. I don't. You get, get in line. You know.
I love you to death, but for the love of God,
no,
this is
no,
one
no,
of.
and that was probably one of the greatest cars. Now, just a few years ago, and I went on to have a great time with that thing. But a few years ago, there was a fellow over in Long Beach that had a 1934 Cadillac V16 Aerodynamic Coupe. And this guy was slamming his door in people's faces since the 60s. And it was just, you didn't mess with him. And finally, everybody just gave up because he was a grouchy old shit. He wasn't going to get off the car. There wasn't anything you can do about it. He wouldn't show it to you. You didn't even know if he really had it. And so it fell off the radar completely. I mean, everybody knew they knew the car was down in Long Beach in the 60s, but where it went, you know, because there's only one, right? And so I end up finding the car, you know, just researching, and because of the internet too. I don't think I could have done it years ago. But I get on there and I find this guy and I knock on the door and yeah, I got the car. He goes, can I see it? Yeah, I guess. And we go out there, and here's this amazing, huge 34 Cadillac V16, jammed in the garage. I go, Grady. His name was Grady Payne. I go, Grady, what's the grill like? And he goes, you know, I parked the car in there in 1948, and we built shelves all around it. You couldn't even get. I had to lift up the hood, put my camera in there, and take pictures just to see if the motor was even in it, because they had so much junk, around the car. So I tried to buy the car now for a couple of years, and I'm calling him, yeah, we're going to sell it, this and that, you know. So I've got this 31 Packard 740 Roadster, and I think, well, I'm going to take Grady for a ride in it. I'll just cruise over there and suck up to him a little bit. I go over there, and there was a car that was sitting in front of the garage door that they kept to keep the garage door shut so nobody could get in the garage where the Cadillac was. Well, that car was sitting out in the street. Oh, no. And I pull up and I think, crap, you know, they've gotten the car out, you know, they've taken it out. And I get out there, the car's still in the garage, but the daughter and the wife and everybody was there, and they're gonna get the car out and they want to sell it. It was good news there. It was very good news that they hadn't already sold it. And so we get my Packard out and we tie a chain to it, and I say, I want to help pull it out, you know, just to help mess around with it. So we're tugging on the car with the Packard 740
You
Roadster.
gotta pull it out of the Packard, not like that.
We're pulling out, and thank God the brakes were stuck on the car, right? They couldn't, you couldn't move this behemoth thing, you know. I said, well, I'm going to pull it out a little ways, but we're not going to be able to push it back in. I mean, this is 6 tons, you know.
Going forward, but not backwards.
Yeah, it's not going to get out. So we get it a little ways out of the garage, and I go, and they wanted, let's see, I'd offered Grady a 150 for the car. And
150 meaning 150?
150,000.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that was, okay, we're going to talk, and this and that, and it wasn't really going to do it. So there that day, I got, there was 2 kids, Grady and his wife. So there's 4 of them standing there, and I go, Grady, I'll give you and your wife 150, and I'll give your kids $10,000 apiece.
Smart.
And the wife turns around. She goes, well, how do you know those kids need money? And I said, every kid needs money. You gotta be kidding. So I'm expecting to go, okay, we'll jump on it, right? We'll let you know at 3, right? So I think, crap.
3 today?
Yeah, 3 later on that afternoon. But I'm not happy with that. I like the deal
I know, of
right
course you
there.
are.
So I drive the Packard back and I put it back at the shop.
This guy, now I hate him.
And about an hour later, the phone rings, and Mark, Grady's son, he calls up and he goes, "Can you bump that 10 grand up to 15 apiece?"
The kids that don't need money.
I go, done deal, right? So I go back over and we got the car. And I got it running, and I actually took the car up to Pebble Beach and trolled the parking lot at Pebble Beach with this thing on the back of a trailer to sell it. You know, here comes Leno, here comes John Mozart, here comes all the guys are coming out into the parking lot and looking at this car, you know. And after that weekend, a guy came down from Australia, or Russ Morgan, who bought the car. He walks around the car one time, he goes, "What do you want for it?" I go, $420, and he goes, "I'll take it." And I go, "Do you want to hear it run?" And he goes, "It runs." I mean, seriously, put the guy in the car, drove him around in it.
You guys are both big names in the industry. How can we make this go forward? How can we make the next generation excited about cars?
Yeah, well, actually, these guys that are building the turbo Toyotas and all this thing, and you and I wouldn't have anything to do with it. They're a kid now, and they have one, and maybe when they get successful and down the road in their career and all that, they may be collecting that stuff.
Yeah, no, you're right, 'cause
Who knows?
Who
knows?
And as far as you're saying it's dying, as long as the population is growing, it can't die, just because of the amount of people that are introduced yearly into the whole thing.
I love to
Visually
hear that.
beautiful.
I'd love to hear
Don't
that.
forget that part. It's visually beautiful.
1955, there was a handful of hot rodders, and I'll guarantee you there is thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of them today. When I say a handful in each little town, Orange had its
That's why I still have a job.
yeah.
Tony, what can you tell somebody that, you know, we keep talking about getting more people into the hobby and becoming collectors and becoming curators of history. What can you tell somebody besides walking in a place with a boatload of cash, how to get into this business?
I had a guy recently too, and this is really kind of fun to see. He was about 30 years old, so fairly young. And he says, "I've been collecting signs for the last 10 years. I'm like, "Kid's 20 years old collecting automotive signs, you know," and he goes, "Will they be, when I become, I collect them because I like them, but I'm also thinking about my future. In 30 years from now, when I'm 60, are these going to be worth anything?" Well, first you have to say, if I had a fortune teller hat, we'd all be rich, you know. But if you're buying the high-end stuff, the items that are very rare, are no chips or anything in them, then that is going to, if there's still a market for it, that's what's going to build up from there. You know, it's exponentially the value is going to grow. But if you're buying the stuff that's got that patina, if you will, it's not going to grow exponentially.
I agree 100%, right? Good stuff is always worth the money. That's what goes up, right? That's why guys upgrade, because as soon as they get knowledge, they start buying the best stuff, right? You know, they just start, because they don't have a lot of money, so they start at the bottom, and then all of a sudden they're getting rid of the bottom, and they're going to medium, and then intermedium, and then up. And pretty soon they got the good stuff, you know, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been fun. It looks like our dealer's back from her break. I've enjoyed talking to you. It's interesting to put these kind of minds and experience at one table here, and we've had phenomenal audience here today. And I think we heard some interesting things, and not only on where the hobby's going and where it's been, but just why you guys enjoy it. Fantastic, and thank you very much.
Well,
It's
thank you
great.
for having us.
Yeah.
And Mark's, thank you. Mark has got a special treat for us. He brought a guest in here who's going to entertain us.
Let me down in familiar ways. I can see the signs written on your face. We are temporary, just a taste. One by one and day by day, we try to let the gods decide our fate. Never really falling in love, just a taste. That first bite, it tastes so good. The kind of love that you knew it would make. Made it past the interview. Let me see every inch of you, baby. Lost for just a moment or two, trying to live life like lovers do. Then I hear my phone vibrate, vibrate, vibrate. It's a girl from Baltimore, wondering the next time I'll be on tour. Infinite possibilities, baby, why would I ever really need to come knocking on your door? Let me down in familiar ways. I can see the signs written on your face. We are temporary, just a taste. One by one and day by day, we try to let the gods decide our fate. Never really falling in love, just a taste. I know we're not forever, but I'm bad at saying no when you're rubbing up against me and you always good to go. Who knows? We could make it for a month, we could have a lot of fun and maybe smoke a couple blunts. Take you to the club so you can show me all your moves. I know I am the envy of all these other dudes. I can see it in their eyes that they want to see you nude. They out drinking with their buddies and they trying to get rude. End up alone when bars are closing, saying bitches rude. The truth is they ain't man enough to put you in the mood. At least not the way that I do, I ain't trying to be crude. I've got conclusive evidence, the data isn't skewed. I'm a man who's on the move, you know, I keep a fast pace. Moving from the district heading west to LA. Gotta keep my freedom, gotta be my own man. Don't shed a single tear, I'm gonna love you while I still can. Now it's time to say goodbye. Don't be sad, we had a good time. And I believe I will see you again. Next time we get together, it will be in better weather. You gotta know I love you even though we ain't forever. Let me down in familiar ways. I can see the signs written on your face. We are temporary, just a taste. One by one and day by day, we try to let the gods decide our fate. Never really falling in love, just a taste.
You're the first to hear that.